guys, what's up? Ldshadowlady here, and this is 100 Days of Minecraft. I've seen quite a few people try this idea that was started by Luke the Notable to start a fresh Minecraft world on day 1 and keep track of your progress all the way up till day 100. However, unlike Luke, I'm not going to be playing it on hardcore because I wouldn't last a day. Now, let's get started. So day 1, the first thing I did was get myself a set of stone tools, and I went off in search of a good cave. It didn't take long before I got distracted by some horses, but then I spotted the perfect cave in the distance, so I ran my little legs over there to go and collect as much iron as I could find before the sun went down. With my modest haul of 15 blocks, I decided to head back to my spawn point where I would set up camp. It's too cute here and I never want to leave. I made myself a bed and I dyed it red for old time's sake. I made myself a super unnecessary campfire just for the vibes, and that was the end of day 1. Day 2, I decided to start building a house, and since we're in vanilla Minecraft, I thought I would go for a cute cottagecore vibe. But I only got this far before the sun went down, and that was the end of day 2. So day 3, I decided to get a roof on this baby, so I ventured out to a nearby dark oak forest to collect some of those gorgeous chocolate planks. At this point, my husband Joel entered my room and suggested the idea of having McDonald's for dinner. I agreed that this was a sound plan. Can I have nuggies? With over a stack of the dark oak logs, I headed back home to work on my roof. Of course I didn't finish it because it's a roof, and they take me far longer to build than they should. Day 4, I spent the entire day finishing the roof. On day 5, I put the finishing touches on the exterior of the house, and I started building a second floor. Unfortunately, progress was a little slow today on account of me pigging out on my McDonald's. On day 6, I finished the basic interior, so now it's ready for all my decorations and collections. And I go to sleep in my basic red bed for the last time because I decided then and there that tomorrow I'm making a bunk bed. And on the 7th day, Lizzie said, "Let there be bunk beds." I spent a good part of this day deciding what colour bunk beds to get and finding the wool, and then I stumbled across a bee! And it was so adorable I just had to lure it home with me so he could sample my flowers. I turned away for 5 seconds to make myself a bunk bed, and when I came back, the bee was gone. But the impact he made on my life will last forever, because he inspired me to create a cottage garden. So I got it started by placing these leafy growths all over my walls and my roof. And what do you know? That was the end of day 7. On day 8, I continued fulfilling my cottagecore dreams and fenced off a little cottage garden. I made a cute little path up to the door. Then I randomly realized that I had no armor on, and I had done nothing intelligent with those 15 iron ingots from day 1. So I made a chest and a hat, and I continued happily filling my cottage garden with flowers. So here's my progress by the 8th day. On day 9, I had only one thing on my mind: bees. So after a quick Google search, I knew everything I needed to know, and I set off in search of a bee nest. Heading south from my house, I finally found one, but of course it was empty. So I coaxed him back to his hive, and I left a few floral offerings. While I was waiting for him to do his thing, I thought I would check out the nearby jungle, so I grabbed a few vines for my cottage garden. Still no honey. So then I did a little coal mining nearby, until there was no coal left. And still no honey. Then I collected some sand, because you can never have too much sand. And still no honey. Then I encountered a witch, who seemed hellbent on thwarting my plans that day. She poisoned me for 40 seconds, and I nearly died. But the good news is there was honey now, so I smoked out the hive so as not to cause distress to the bee while I harvested the honeycomb. 3 is all I needed to make a hive of my own, so I excitedly ran home in the complete darkness. And that, my friends, was day 9. On day 10, I crafted my beehive, and I found a couple of bees to bring home. I gave them some flowers, and I was shook when a baby popped out. But now I have a cute little bee family living in my beehive. So then I ate my last piece of food, and I realized I should probably start a farm. I thought this hilltop location beside my house would be quite nice, but to start a farm up there I would need a bucket. I popped down into the caves just below my house to grab some iron, and I encountered my very first death. Upon respawning, I enacted immediate revenge, and I got that iron I came for. As night fell, I crafted the bucket I wanted, but day 10 will go down in history as a cursed day. Day 11, I started working on my farm, but I realized I was going to need a lot of wheat seeds. And I thought it would be clever to just find a nearby village and borrow some of theirs. So I set off in a westerly direction, looking for villages. And I found one just in time for the end of the day. I slept through the night and woke up on day 12, refreshed and ready to steal. First I stole their village bell. Then I stole their cats. I took the hay bales. I took the bookshelves. I took a nap. And on day 13, I took my leave. So now I have 2 cats, a doorbell, enough seeds to get my wheat field started up here, and a few of these vegetables, which I decided to plant over here in a little vegetable garden. Oh, and just before going to sleep, I thought it would be a good idea to try and harvest my beehive. It was a terrible idea, and one of my bees died. So day 13, unlucky for some, especially that bee. So day 14 begins and I decide to work on my vegetable garden. Being such a completionist means that I want to have one of every single vegetable, so I expanded my farm a little, planted some pumpkins, and I realised I need to go find some melon seeds and some beetroot seeds. I ran off to the nearby jungle and I found melon seeds easily enough. I checked the village from the day before and nobody had even heard of beetroot. So I went off into the sunrise of day 15 in search of another village, a better village. I found a tiger village just before nightfall, so I kicked this man out of his bed and stole it for the night. So day 16 begins, and I start looking around only to realise these people don't know what beetroots are either. They do, however, have these delicious sweet berries, which I will steal for my cottage garden. So I run off once again in search of another village, looking for beetroot. Eventually I found this plains village and I started harassing the villagers, but they wouldn't give up the goods. It was at this point that I realised that somehow I had picked up beetroot seeds on my adventures already, and they were in fact sitting in my inventory. Then I realised I had no idea where I was anymore, and I was very, very far away from home. My only option was to run towards 0-0 and hope that was where I spawned. After a while I stumbled into this flower forest and it was magical. The flowers just went on and I was so happy. And then the sun went down and I was so scared. But eventually I saw the glow of my cottage through the foliage and I was home again. So a 3-day adventure for beetroot seeds, and it turns out I actually acquired them on day 1 without realising. On day 17, the first thing I did is plant my precious beetroot seeds, and then I planted the sweet berries in rows beside my vegetable garden in the hopes that it will look really cute when it's all grown in. So while I waited for everything to grow, I moved inside to do some decorating. I started with some bookshelves up in my bedroom. And then I thought it would be a good idea to make a fireplace. And I want it to be fancy, so of course I'm using brick. And it took forever. In fact, I spent the whole day making this fireplace, and I stayed up almost all night finishing it. But the result is adorable. On day 18, I decided to go mining. Because despite living in this world for so long already, I still don't have a diamond. So I found a nice looking cave, and it was a dead end. So then I staircased down until I found something. Eventually, I found this really cool underground lava lake, and I decided this would be a perfectly safe place to sleep. So we roll over to day 19, and it's time to mine. I found 2 veins of diamonds, giving me a total of 11, and I found a couple of stacks of iron. So at the end of the day, I went back up to the surface and headed back home. So on day 20, it's time to start using all those diamonds we collected, and I have a little tradition to frame my first diamond. So I made an item frame and I displayed it up on the wall. Then I made myself an enchanting table so I could make my first diamond pickaxe and get my first ever enchantment. Then I realized my wheat field has grown, so I can start taming some farm animals. First I wanted a chicken, so I found this one drowning in a hole, and I rescued him and now he lives in my garden. And that's the end of day 20. On day 21, I found a nice area just beyond the wheat field and I decided to build a pig pen. But it started getting dark and I still hadn't finished yet. So on day 22, I finished the pig pen, lured in some pigs, and they love it. Day 23, I decided to build a bridge from my side of the river over to the birch forest. So I spent the day terraforming the area and getting these structural supports in place. The next day I started construction on the bridge using extinguished campfires for this rural log bridge style. It took me a lot longer than I was expecting, but the bridge was finally done. The next day, I decided to head out in search of a swamp so that I could kill some slimes, as I wanted to add these support ropes to my bridge like the reference image. It didn't take long to find a swamp, so I just waited until nighttime for all the slimes to spawn. However, no slimes spawned. The next day, I built this stupid contraption that I thought would make slimes spawn, but it didn't work. Then I realized I could just use the world seed to find out where the slime chunks are. So I just left the swamp empty-handed to hunt down slimes a little closer to home. I arose on the 28th day to discover that there was a slime chunk right next to my house. And so I spent that day digging out a huge area where slimes could spawn. The next day I waited eagerly to see if a slime would actually spawn, and nothing.
This is not my first time in the...
Yep, still no slime. Until finally, the smallest little slime sprung forth and I killed him. But he didn't just give me a slime ball. he gave me hope. On day 30, I automated the slime farm with this campfire contraption, and I enlisted the help of an iron golem to lure the slimes to their death. There are hoppers beneath the campfires that should collect any slime balls, so now I don't have to kill them myself. Day 31 was like Christmas because I went down to check on my slime farm and there was some slime balls waiting for me, which meant I could finally finish my bridge. I decided to use some of my homebred pigs to hold one end of the rope, and it was a horrible, terrible mistake. This bridge looks so silly, oh my gosh, but I decided to finish it anyway, and this is what it looked like by the end of the day. So I went to sleep, truly defeated. But on day 32, I had a plan. I covered up those pesky pigs so you couldn't see them anymore, and I marched myself off to the flower forest, and I picked flowers until the sun came down. Literally. And I finally made it back home safely, only to discover that there was a creeper in my bedroom. So I narrowly avoided that catastrophe and moved on to day 33, which I spent planting flowers on the other side of the river in an attempt to distract the eye from my weird bridge. Day 34, I woke up and I looked at my advancements and I thought, I haven't done anything. The Nether exists and I haven't been there. I spent the whole day mining obsidian and I built my nether portal across the bridge. I made my first ever diamond sword, I enchanted it, and I hopped into the portal. And where I popped out is quite possibly the worst nether spawn I have ever seen. When I finally made it down to the ground, I had a little wander around and I decided that I hated it. The only good thing about the nether was these shroom lights, which are really cute. Then I found myself just drawn to this ugly biome in the distance and I had to get over there. When I got there, I didn't know what any of the blocks were, so I started breaking them to see what they were called, and I'm so embarrassed by what followed. When I went to retrieve my things, I realized the only things missing was my diamond sword and my shroom lights. Several ghasts spawned and made it very clear they didn't want me there anymore, so I just left. Didn't like it in there anyway. On day 36, I cleared out a piece of land near my hilltop farm. Then I spent day 37 fiddling around trying to build this moon out of birch planks. And on day 38, I built a barn around the moon. I call it the moon barn. On day 39, I finished the outside of the barn. On day 40, I opened up the barn and created some paddocks on either side. The next day, I wanted to make it more realistic, so I replaced all the grass inside the barn with mud and dirt. And I went and tamed some cows. They were extra annoying because they hated the bridge even more than I did and they refused to walk across it. But I eventually got them settled in the barn. On day 42, I filled the other side of the barn with sheep and I started dyeing them rainbow colours. So on day 43, I woke up and realised I had no iron, no diamonds, no coal left. So I went down into the caves and I found myself a stack of iron. But that wasn't enough, so on day 44, I went back underground, strip mining this time, until I broke into a ravine where I found these 2 diamonds. On day 45, I needed a break from the caves, so I crafted some cute little lanterns to decorate with, and I started working on the paths between all my buildings. It took me another day to finish them, but I was really happy with how they turned out. On day 47, I did something a bit different on the other side of the river. I made a leafy path instead, and when that was done, I realized there was an ugly cliff behind the nether portal, so I put a cute little waterfall there instead, and lit it up with a lantern. Day 48, I checked my slime farm, and there were 27 slime balls waiting for me. When I got home, I realized I didn't even have anywhere to put them, my chests were all so messy, so I started organizing. And on day 49, I continued organizing, until my house was finally tidy. Finally, the halfway point, day 50, had arrived. I stepped out my door and there was a creeper. I killed the creeper, but I felt weak. This busted iron sword needs an upgrade. But to get a powerful sword, I need a powerful enchantment.